What's up, everybody, and welcome back into Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Another big episode tonight as college football is upon us. Week 0 is here. We have a ton to cover. There's 4 games this weekend. We are going to cover 3 of the 4 in full. Probably mention the 4th one, but I don't think there's too many people out there that are going to stay up super late for Delaware State and Hawaii. The boys are here. Jake, we finally made it. The countdown's all the way down to 3. How we doing tonight? Ready to talk actual football?
I was born to talk actual football. Of course I'm ready for it. And we're all going to be like, great job by the intro, by the way. That was a surprise to the other 3. I'm assuming. I
had seen it all the way through, but I got the thumbnail down here on the, I had a inkling it was coming.
No, that's fantastic. But failed to mention the boys will be back together once again. Second time in a month. Unbelievable. And if the night goes the way I think it's going to, we'll be up watching Hawaii and Delaware State. We will be. Or at least I will be.
Sicko mode. That's full sicko mode. If you're watching Delaware State Hawaii, kick off 11 p.m. Central, you're a sicko. Like us. We definitely will be dialed into that. JP, ready to celebrate some more love this weekend as a group?
Absolutely. That's what I love. That's what I just want to do. I just want to celebrate love.
Calm down, Jordan.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, the opportunity was there. I took advantage of it.
He was thinking hard to say it.
I was hoping he wasn't going to.
There is a soft launch of I'm redoing a little bit behind me. So like if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it, or X. Podcast room is getting a little redo. Now, 12 of these panels, right?
I got to say, are those like soundproof?
Sound ones?
Yeah. It also just is a little backdrop better than the flags. I figured I'd put the high school college days behind me. But 12 of them may not get it done. Like there's still some space. I don't know what I'm going to do here. But then the helmets are going on this wall and some shelves. Nice. So I'm excited, but soft launch didn't get it all up as it got the package late Monday. So you got to figure that one out. But soft launch.
I'm excited to see what the space does. And the one thing that's never going to leave your space is the dog in the background.
Say Cowboys demolishing that Kong right now.
There he is. Yeah, there he's going to work. He's always he's a part of the show. He really is. Reese, how we doing? I know you're running on absolutely no sleep. You're about to go hop on a plane, but you all right?
Yeah, we're excited. We get to go back home this weekend and hang out with the family and see the boys again. So there ain't nothing to ever complain about.
All right, fair enough. Tonight we're going to cover what ifs, and we did a little bit of a version differently and during the offseason. That was more kind of different scenarios. What if Cam Newton stayed at Florida, things like that. Tonight's going to be more question-based of the season. You might see something like that, but they'll be different. I think we have a few. Everybody probably has one they want to discuss. That won't take up the majority of the time. Obviously, the majority of the time we'll go to the game previews. We will cover the 3 of the 4. We'll obviously mention the last one. So let's jump into it and let's get it popping with what ifs. Jake, this was your idea, so I'll let you kind of explain it and kick it off with one that you have.
Yeah, just brief kind of synopsis of what we're doing. Basically, you're going to bring up a scenario of what if this happens in 2024, and essentially how are we going to respond as fans? How is the country going to respond? Maybe what is the legacy of a certain player or coach, or what's the perspective different at the end of the season that we might have right now as we enter week 1 next week. I'll get off and start us with Notre Dame. What if Mike Denbrock, the new offensive coordinator from LSU, what if he's as big of a home run hire as people think he is just outside of South Bend? Riley Leonard was quoted in saying he loves the up tempo. He loves how quick they're going, how quick he can get the ball out. I just mentioned maybe perspective on what we look at as players. What if he turns a guy like Riley Leonard into a prolific passer that he kind of, I don't want to say he lacked, but that is his biggest separation between being what he is right now as a good college quarterback and a future NFL prospect. I think he lacks consistency throwing the ball. Does Denbrock kind of implement that with him? Does he come better with that? You bring in Bo Collins from Clemson at receiver, Chris Mitchell from FIU. So he's going to have some receivers. You know, Denbrock's not playing with Jaden Daniels, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, but Notre Dame's got a favorable schedule. Maybe this offense clicks, man. And if it is, how good is this football team? Do they become a top 5 football team? We know that they won't make the first 4 or the first round buys because they're not in a conference, but do they go undefeated? Do they just easily walk through their schedule? Do they walk into Texas A&M week 1 and take apart Mike Elko? How crazy would that be? What would the persona be as just outsiders looking at that and be like, wow, I think this offense is legit. We don't necessarily talk about the offense enough when it comes to Notre Dame. We're just raving about how good their defense can be. How could those two pair up with each other? What could that do for Notre Dame going forward this year?
I like this topic, and you weren't here for the top 25 we did last week, but we got a little bit of heat, and I've seen a ton on other top 25s. People think Notre Dame has absolutely no business being in the top 10 this year. So it's a great topic, JP. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was always going to say is Jake has to be able to defend his number 5 ranking. He had Notre Dame
5,
which probably is the only reason Notre Dame was in the top. We had him 7, right? Is that right, guys?
Yeah.
Yep.
6 or 7. They were not 9 or 10.
Alabama at 7.
Yeah. So probably Jake's the only reason that Notre Dame was probably not 8 or 9 on our list. So Jake, you had him 5.
I'm glad I kept him around. I don't necessarily, believe that this team is definitely the 5th best team in the country, but I'm glad I put him that high so we could keep them around. What did we have them? 7th? 6th. I just think that I think Riley Leonard's really good. I think that defense is going to be one of the best in the country this year. I'm putting some faith in the new OC. For a bunch of people freaking out about Notre Dame, we don't know yet, Alabama. People were freaking out. How do you put Notre Dame above Alabama? I want to see it. I think Riley Leonard's probably a better quarterback than Jalen Milroe. People might clown me in the comments once again. But,
immediately, it's already happened. The moment
it's our
that came out of your mouth. Yeah,
it's our show. We have our own opinions, right? It might even take me 2 weeks, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, Alabama's better than Notre Dame. But right now, with what I know and don't know, yeah, I'm going to take Notre Dame right now.
I feel like that's not the dumbest thing in the world. There's some question marks around Alabama, as there is Notre Dame. I think a lot of people are on the downside of Marcus Freeman. Obviously, you have 10 guys on the field last year in the last play of the game against Ohio State, but those are easily fixable things. And look at the quarterbacks he's brought in after what he got. I mean, Sam Hartman, now Riley Leonard. You got to think they're going to keep progressing, and they don't have like the world's hardest schedule in my mind. So that's Notre Dame. I like that. What if, JP? Do you have one? And what?
I do. For this one, I need you to just imagine there's nothing wrong offensively. Like everything works out perfectly, exactly to plan. Okay. Think like
Iowa
the bowl
going to the
games
Big Ten championship?
last year. No. What if Lincoln Riley changes USC's identity a little bit and USC plays above average or above average plus defense? Now, go ahead.
I'm going to piggyback on this because my what if is also on USC. What if they go 7-5 again? So mine's the opposite side. Like, what if Lincoln Riley wins 7 games again? Now are we having a way different discussion about him as the head coach there? But okay, build off that.
I was just going to say, like, if you still get the Miller Moss that showed up in the bowl game, now I understand a bowl game is a different situation. It's not an entire year of work, right? But you get that. He's been good. Let's call him a Jag plus if it's a little bit better because he looked like one in the bowl game. And then like Zachariah Branch is really good. Like we're going to see, and all the weapons at USC play out like the weapons at USC are supposed to play out, and if you open the college football book, it's always USC's got flashy guys that are that good. So they all play out that way. But all the changes on the defensive side, Lincoln Riley implemented all the new hires, the way they handle in practice. They're getting more physical. They're trying to beef up the front 4. What if all that works out? And this is now defense in the Big Ten is a big deal. What if they are a top? There's 18 teams, right, in the Big Ten now. I'm trying to math that out.
It's a lot.
What if they're a top 8 defense in the league? Then what? Like, why do you?
They're there.
Is Penn State still getting in? Like, is Penn State your 4th team in the Big Ten? Are they better than Oregon? Are they like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a lot of possibilities if this really works out on one side of the ball.
Can I throw one back to both of you Big Ten people? Because this was like a consolation if we wanted to branch off a bit more. My question was, what if these Pac-12 schools come in and dominate's a strong word, but what if they come in and handle their own in the Big Ten? Like, well, maybe Oregon wins the conference. What's the conversation? We already know what people are going to say about Ryan Day in Ohio State. What if USC, like you talked about, JP, they come in and they even win 9 or 10 games? Do they take like Penn State's spot and people are all out on James Franklin and they're like, look at these, they got 2 bigger programs than Penn State right now. I'm out on Penn State. It's Ohio State, it's Oregon, it's USC, and probably still Michigan. So as outsiders, I know we can't really see it right now, but what if UCLA manages to win 6 games? I can pull up their schedule in a second, but I think that would be a surprise. I think I've heard people say they might be the worst team in the league.
They might.
I don't think people would be shocked if like UCLA progresses faster than a Purdue does. Like I feel like the teams that join the Big Ten are kind of that top half of the Pac-12 to where it wouldn't be that much of a shocker. Now, if you get what the ACC got and you get Cal and Stanford, and then they start competing in the Big Ten, then you'd be like, God damn, how bad is the Big Ten? But the teams that joined, I don't think it would be that much of a shock to the college football world. I mean, those are all bigger brands that should be able to recruit well.
Well, go ahead, Reese.
I was just going to say, I think if USC, if their defense is successful, I think if we're talking about for this year, I think that just shows D'Anton Lynn obviously was the right guy. Then I think if you're a USC fan, you have tremendous faith in your future because you have Lincoln Riley, the offensive mind, and now you're finishing that defense. So like you're going to, not saying you're going to get to your, glory days of 2004, 2006, like somewhere in there, but you're going to be a team who's going to be in there year in and year out. And like, it's going to be a year or two before you're getting to that, kind of like what Oregon is or Ohio State. It's going to be in that conference right now, but I think you have a lot of faith that it also, the hard part then would be keeping D'Anton Lynn around because he bounced from UCLA to USC. So it's like, how is that guy? How do you keep that guy around? Because he's going to be a hot name somewhere for somebody else.
Not to forget to mention though, Reese, let's say he does bounce after a good year. All of a sudden, then you bring in, I can't remember if it's Ince or Ince. Matt Ince, the old head coach from North Dakota State, he's coaching linebackers there. Like, I don't know if we've seen a coaching staff go all in on a new brand of football than USC has on defense. Like, they have a second option.
I was going to say that's a
way too close to being an elite football team. I think he's been like, we got something completely new, something I've never thought I'd handle it this way, but I have to handle it this way now. And that's where we're at with Lincoln Riley.
Yep. I would agree 100%. That was a good one. USC is an interesting one, and we'll follow them all year long. Let's go down to Reese. Reese, do you have a what if prepared? If not, we can kind of build off.
I kind of just thought of one. I think this is a fun one. It's what if Ole Miss is able to win the SEC this year, and they're in their top 4 at the end of the year? Like, is this like a 2019 LSU where it's kind of like a one and done glory, or is it like a sustainable thing where like we saw with LSU, you have Joe Burrow, you had Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Thaddeus Moss. This year you got, I forget their tight end's name, Freakson or whatever the guy's name is, but then you have Dart, you have Trey Harris, that guy. It's like you have and you have the name of Lane Kiffin, and you have Charlie Weiss for your offensive coordinator. Like, is this a team that can sustain this for the future? Because like with the portal is right now, can you bring guys year in and year out, or is this like what LSU was at one year? They were the best, one of the best college football teams that we can argue and say, or are they going to sustain it and fall, or are they going to fall off? So
that's a good question. I feel like you got to say they'll be able to sustain it better, right? Like Orgeron at that time, you don't feel like is an elite recruiter, but Kiffin, he's kind of always been that guy that can go out and get dudes, and the portal's even helped him. So I 100%. Would say more close to sustained, but it's a great question because they did go all chips in this year too.
Yeah. Without diving too deep into exactly how I think this could work out and why it may go a certain way over another, like I think they've done a good job in high school recruiting. They've done an elite job at the portal, and how sustainable is that over time? And how long can you keep that money coming in to keep kids in the portal interested in your school? Right. And then it's keeping kids there at the same time. Because if you're successful, other people want your kids at the same time. There's so much that built up to this. Like you kind of saw Auburn do the exact opposite of what Ole Miss did this year. They go, Auburn, I can wait a year or two and then buy all in. So I like the question, Reese, because I mean, honestly, like it's completely dependent on all these guys that have been around and veterans. It's like, I have no idea.
I think what helps too is obviously the departure of Nick Saban, because right now you still have Kirby Smart at the top, but they didn't make the playoff last year, even though they should have. So he's still kind of like the top coach. But right, like Alabama was going to be Alabama year in and year out, and now you have Georgia that's going to be that. But it's more open, I think, and if they can sustain this program, I mean, imagine Ole Miss. You have a 4-headed beast in the SEC every year. If Alabama sticks around to be the same thing, so like I just think that'd be kind of interesting to think about.
All right. I like that one. That is all we have for what ifs, or do you have multiple, Shape?
I came
was,
prepared. I didn't know how long you wanted to go on the previous.
No, we got
Yeah,
plenty of time.
I got
Okay.
another one. I do have
I got-
another one. I put this on my Twitter, so you guys have basically probably seen it already if you do follow me.
What's
By the
Twitter?
way, give me a follow on X, JShafer
Jake.
CFB. I have like 80 followers right now. You know, half of them are probably bots, so we're growing every day. We're trying our best.
Bumping those numbers.
Let me throw one more what if at you before you go, and that is what if everybody listening went out and bought a No Rivals hat using the code
Or subscribe.
PTFS, and do that too. What if? It would
Lot
be
to do.
incredible. Like the video first. If you're here and you're listening right now, just like the video on YouTube. It helps a ton. Please do that. Then hit the subscribe button and we can move on. But also shout out to our partners at No Rivals. They just dropped the Iowa one. JP probably should have one on that bald head.
I didn't want to cross contaminate. I didn't want to cross.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I did wear the
fair.
Tech football shirt on Monday as well. But I should shout myself. I have an SMU No Rivals cap. SMU plays this weekend.
Yeah.
Get out there, buy a hat. If you haven't heard of them, check them out. They're new. They have a bunch of different designs. Go ahead.
If you want Iowa hats, I'm pretty sure one of them already is out of stock. So you better be on top of it and paying attention for when those go back up.
I was gonna say,
Told by somebody that was trying to buy one.
if you haven't heard of them, you're probably living under a rock, right?
Yep, they're moving quick. They're moving in quick, and they're growing fast. You have the three teams. You find out here who they're dropping. You're not going to find out from them. They're not going to tell you. I get to tell you, and it's Memphis, ECU, and Mizzou are on their way. To be determined on timing, but those are three
East
big
Carolina
fan bases.
hat.
East Carolina is a big
East
brand with
Carolina
a rabid fan base, so I'm excited for those. But there's a bunch of teams out there right now. Check out our partners at No Rivals. ShopNoRivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping when you order. Shout out to No Rivals. Now give us a what if, Jake.
Great poll. Let's go. Like I put on my X, I put this question up because I think it was, I don't know, Bud Elliott was talking about it on TV, and it brought up a good question that we haven't really discussed. What if Washington State wins 10 to 12 games? What does that do for the G5 spot? Does that count? I don't think we've ever even talked about if that is considered a G5 berth.
It's got to be,
Yeah.
right?
Does anybody know?
No.
They're not going to take. They're not going to give a non
Notre Dame
team. Correct, but that's different because
Notre
It is,
Dame
but it isn't.
negotiated in.
Category.
They
It is-
negotiated their
It is
spot.
different, and also Notre Dame's not playing a Mountain West schedule. They're actually
It's true.
playing
Yeah.
basically an ACC schedule.
And Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure Notre Dame argued, or what's the word? I just used the word and then I forgot it. Negotiated where they sit in the playoff and
Yep.
how they handle
Saurus.
Yeah.
it. Yep. So they negotiated to get that 5 at best. Like that was a part of it. They signed off on it. Washington State was not asking to be a part of a 2-team conference, you know? So I think they would grab a G5 bid because they're not like money don't talk until it's the invitational, and Big 10 SEC, Big 12 ACC schools don't want to give up another slot for Wazoo or Oregon State.
Well, and here's my question. Like looking at their schedule, I mean, just strength of schedule is probably atop of the G5 for sure. They play Texas Tech at home. They play Washington, at Boise, at Fresno. You're basically playing the top 2 teams in the Mountain West on the road, and then you're playing at Oregon State. If they win 3 of those 5, and they probably grab one of those road games between Boise and Fresno, I think that's a better resume than Liberty at undefeated Liberty compared to a 10-2 Washington State. And we know what Jake Dicker can do. Like, I know he doesn't have Cam Ward running the show, but I think his offense can translate. I'm interested to see if it's run and gun in the Mountain West and how well can it go. The last 2 years, you get Cam Ward hot in September. We love talking about it. He's the star of the show. And then they just kind of flutter out. Well, now
I have it right here.
your schedule is decent, but it's not as tough as what the Pac-12 was. Maybe you don't take those lumps like you did, and you can keep your momentum going after September. I think that this team, wouldn't the committee, just based on history, because this team was in a Power 5 conference just a year ago, it's not the exact same roster, very similar. What if they look at it as like, this team's got a better roster build than Liberty does? I think they can hold their own. They beat Boise, who a lot of us put as the preseason best G5 team around. So I think it's an easy way for the committee to get out of it. And would Washington beat Notre Dame if they do go to South Bend as the 5-12? No. Could they at least give the outsider college football fans perspective like some hope? Maybe you could talk yourself into it, like, oh, they just keep it close in the first half. Everyone's going to give up on the other G5 teams.
You brought up SOS, strength schedule here. I have Liberties here. I want you to remember something.
It's terrible. I remember
there are
that.
134 teams in the country. 134. Liberties, 134. Oregon State, 75. Wazoo, 100. So they both
really? They didn't even crack the top 100? That surprises me.
Yeah, it's going to raise a conversation at the end of the year. Let's just throw out a team that's supposed to be better in a smaller G5 or a different G5.
Yeah.
Like Bowling Green, if they're 11-1 and Wazoo is 10-2, you also think the committee is going to be like, all right, Wazoo's fan base is going to give us a better
I'm kind of having fun with this. Can I pull up Bowling Green schedule too, just so we have it to reference?
That's my MAC school. Well, and I was going to say too, why don't I bring up Oregon State? Yeah, Oregon State will be a solid team, but I think they just lost too much with Jonathan Smith, and they're undecided on who's going to be quarterbacking for them. They're going to be okay, and their strength of schedule is better, so maybe they can make a case in point. But right now, I think Washington State's in a better spot going into this year.
If Bowling Green goes 11-1, I love how we're talking a MAC team hits this G5.
Connor Bazelak winning the Heisman.
They would have had a win at either Penn State or at Texas A&M, and their strength of schedule is 84. So those two wins, I don't care who you are.
What if is so fun?
Yeah,
you got to put them in.
What if Bowling Green just demolishes the Kyle Field?
Can we do the opposite side of this, kind of?
Yes.
Okay. We're not worried about the Pac-2 right now. How about what if Boise State and Memphis are undefeated? Or 11-1, I guess.
I was going to say 11-1 because they both play Florida State for Memphis and Oregon for.
Okay, let's make it more fun. What if they're both 12-0? There's only one spot for them.
So what if we can do whatever we want?
Well,
yeah,
wouldn't you? There's only one guarantee. JP, you said there's one spot. There's one guaranteed spot. If they were to go undefeated,
they would open one.
You think they give them one of those two, or like, if they both win those games, you got to think they're getting a nod over like a Penn State with 3 losses.
What if Penn State's 10-2?
Yeah, with the 2 losses.
You're giving them the nod because
you're jumping like Missouri, or you're jumping like
a bad schedule. You're saying a bad schedule,
Big 12
powerful
team. Like you're probably your second Big 12 team is who they would jump.
That's fair. I like that point, Reese.
Yeah,
that's probably who they get.
Right?
Or the
Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Utah.
Whoever the runner-up in the Big 12 title is what Reese is saying.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Yes, that could work too.
That could get gross.
If Boise State and Memphis went 12-0 and they both were not in the college football playoff, I would lose my mind. I'm telling you that right now. They should both be in.
We riot.
Our
version of January 6th.
While you guys are chatting, I'm gonna go find at least the Boise State Oregon spread. That's week 1, week 2, right?
2.
It's gotta be 20. It's got to be 20. Like I don't
remember. But remember last year though, when everybody was like Boise State and Washington 17 or whatever, like it's sneaky, and then
and then they just killed them. I think,
to be fair, not everybody was on Washington, but prior to that game, people were still thinking Washington.
Yeah, I know, but that was early in the year where people were like, "Oh, 17, that's a big spread."
Boise State, I feel like last
week 2
had a little less hype.
Yeah, FanDuel doesn't have it.
Yeah, also true. Parks.
Yeah,
good point.
I mean, GT. I saw him on TikTok today. That dude built like a bowling ball. I think he really is just going to roll through that conference this year. Any luck, Jake, on finding that spread? Is it even out yet? It might not be out yet.
Hey, maybe when you're trying to pull up spreads for Oregon, maybe you don't go to the Pac-12 category on DraftKings. You're not going to find them. You're going to find Oregon.
It's still preseason for us too, people. Calm down.
Yes. And that's like
here you go.
January 5th when you write.
Can we play a game? Can we play like the Dan Patrick game here? Like guess the spread?
No, they don't. They don't have it, but they got the Oregon State spread. If you want to guess that.
Okay.
What do you think?
Oregon at Oregon State.
Oh, 17.5.
23.5.
Why don't you two meet it in the middle?
20.5.
Washington State at Washington. I believe this is a neutral site game, by the way. Don't quote me on that. What
The
do
Apple
you
Cup?
think for that
No.
spread?
No, it's at Washington State. It was in Seattle last year.
Seattle,
Yeah.
but not Seattle like University of Washington. Seattle like what do they call that? CenturyLink or whatever.
Oh, it's
Lumen?
it's at the Seahawks Stadium.
Correct.
Yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
that neutral sided this year? Damn. You got to feel like you're getting gypped if you're Wazoo.
Just goes.
What do you think Wazoo is an
Gotta be
underdog, obviously?
17.
Bud Elliott swore that they wouldn't even be dogs to him. 5.
It's 8. So they got a shot. They win that game, they go 2-0. Well, I think they play Texas Tech.
We're
They
deep
might
down
play
this
Texas
one, by
Tech
the way.
after that one. But yeah,
So
I don't know.
We can keep
it's a good
swimming
one.
down this hole.
Are they? I guess I don't know this. Is maybe something I should know. But are they doing like a Pac-2 championship? Like whoever wins that matchup,
I don't
it's
believe
not
so.
a conference champion that's recognized, but like on their own.
They
I
should.
Okay.
Because
Make
they
it a
play each
trophy
other in
game.
the preseason. Or the
That'd be
preseason.
sweet.
They play each other during the year, so I don't think they decided to
I
add
just
another
don't.
one of us rematch automatically.
Do you think if they could redo it all over again, do you think they just join the Mountain West entirely? Because they could win the Mountain West conference championship. Maybe they go 10-2, 11-2 by winning the conference title. They would have a much
No.
better shot because of recency
I think they're
bias
holding out hope.
to
Yeah.
join
Yeah,
a different
yeah, I really
conference.
Yeah,
Probably.
I think I'd be just be putting a band-aid on a wound and wouldn't be doing a whole lot. You're just trying to fix something early.
Yeah.
But, all right.
Parks, you have another one? I want to do one more.
All right. Let's do one more.
Unless Jake
This
has
one
a
a
better one.
little
Jake,
quicker.
No,
like
no,
yours?
I went through all mine. Those are my 3.
Okay, I wrote down 4, but Reese, do you have another one that you really like?
That's not. I mean, I have one, but it's not that great.
Okay. I think this one could change a lot. What if Miami ends up having a great secondary? What if the one question mark about this football team is the secondary, where it might be average or below average? What if it's great? Like, what if we're just wrong? And they now have shored up the front 4 and the back 7 on defense, and then added in every piece on the offense that clicks in Martinez, Ward, Restrepo, all these guys.
Are you still inferring
this is an assumption? Yes. Back
that
to
the
what we did with
offense,
USC.
the offense will work? Okay.
Okay.
Then this is a top 10 team. I think they're probably winning the ACC then, because
Is it a top 10 team or is it a team that can fight for a title? That's what I was trying to get. Is like, do they break that barrier in that mold where it's like, because we said what, top 7 last week, guys?
Yeah.
It's like outside of the top 7 in ours, we didn't
I
think
think
anybody
fighting
would
for a
You said
title is
top
tough.
You said outside the top 15, and JP, you said
But I'm
Miami
saying-
was
Yeah.
the one team
I'm
outside the
saying-
top 15.
Yeah. From our top 7 or top 25 last week, the top 7 teams, we were the only, they were like, that's where we drew the line. We said there's a gap now.
Okay.
From 7
As
to 8.
actual title contenders.
Correct. Yes. But I think
Okay.
if this hits, they now become a legit title contender, because
Absolutely.
if it jumps from a massive question mark to elite, again, this is a what if. I can do whatever I want with it on the leap. If they are then really good, like bordering on elite or elite, I think Miami changes, like this completely changes things.
Yeah,
Like,
it
that
also
becomes a
helps
scary
the
team.
ACC. It also helps the ACC too, because they've gotten so much punishment this offseason from fans about their their hardest non-con schedule, because their conference schedule is so bad because the bottom half of their conference is bad. Like revitalizing a brand that should be good, like Miami should be this year, would be massive for like the long-standing,
Mhm.
at least putting them above the Big 12 in terms of their at-large bids of the playoff.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge for them to even have an 8-win season, 9-win season, and be back in the mix.
Yeah, the way they're recruiting, for them to have a playoff year, it would springboard them into the future of what the 12 team, 14 team, 16 team, whatever the hell it's going to be, playoff era as a national contender every single year. And I think, JP, that's a good question. Secondary is the only thing that I'm thinking of that's like the only question when it comes to the defense. Like front 7 is really good. I think the defensive line is really good. Don't they have the Bain Jr., Ruben Bain Jr.? He's probably a top 3 defensive end in the league. So yeah, I think I would like to see it. I'm personally not a Miami hater. I wasn't, my prime adolescent days wasn't in the early 2000s. I was 4 years old. So I don't really remember Miami, and I've obviously wasn't born in the 80s. So I didn't grow that hate for Miami. I would like to see the state of Florida be just any program in the state of Florida be a power again. We've talked about that before, though.
Yes.
Do you know how bad you'd have to be at recruiting to not be good at recruiting at Miami? Just to put that out there. Like, it would be
fair.
shocking if any coach was there and we are not like, damn, they're recruiting well. Like, you would
It's
have
also
to be
true.
pitching the wrong things there. I mean, you have a loaded deck. Reese, what do you think? You think Miami can make a run for the title?
I think the run for the title might be a jump. I mean, you do have the question marks. We are a Kmart podcast. We do love him, but I mean, he did have the turnover issues last year as well. I mean, you're at Washington State,
Fair
but
point.
it's what is that guy going to do if he can take care of the football? Then that offense, yeah, you talk about Martinez and Restrepo and all those guys around him. It is going to be very good, but what's Kmart going to do to take care of the football too? Because that defense is the question mark, but it's also that offense is if that offense is putting up, I don't know, 28 a game, 30 a game. Then I think, yeah, obviously they're going to be a team that can contend. But it's what is Kmart going to be like for that team this year?
It's fair.
All right. I like that. There is our what if segment for the week. We may bring that one back midweek if there's some slower
It's a good one.
matchup weeks in college football, but we got to go into week 0, baby. We've been waiting for this all offseason, building up to it. Let's preview some actual college football games. Let's lead it off with Nevada and SMU. This game brings a little bit of excitement because it's SMU's first game in the ACC. It's basically going to be a self-funded program for a little bit of time. They're not getting any TV money for, I believe it's like 6 or 7 years. Maybe double check me on that. Could be longer, but it's a big statement game for them. And then on the other side, Nevada coming off a 2-10 season, looking to just be competitive with now a Power 4 school. JP, tell us your thoughts on this matchup.
Yeah, this one for me is a team really reeling, trying to get back into the fight for a Mountain West title like they had, early 2010s. And a team in the ACC that some people are thinking that jump's going to be too much for them. Others thinking they're just built perfectly for the jump in SMU. What I will say about this one is I am really pumped, and I made sure I wrote this one down to get a hold of it, is I am really pumped to see how much they lean on these running backs at SMU. LJ Johnson, Jalen Knighton, Kamar Wheaton, like these are 3 guys I just would love to see in a game like this where I feel like they can really dominate the offensive line and both line of scrimmages, how much they really lean on running the football. And now Preston Stone can throw the football and they have weapons. That's not a question mark. It's week 0 and you get Houston Christian next week in week 1. How much do you really, just lean on the run game and let your guys do their stuff and really just beat a Nevada team into the ground who can't match you in the trenches? So that was my immediate thought here. I also was kind of curious on kind of what you thought, Jake, here for Nevada, right? Chuba Purdy got the job.
I don't think so.
No,
No.
he did not get
No.
the job.
It's
No,
gonna go.
Brandon
It's gonna be
Lewis-
the
see him.
Lewis.
Brandon
Yeah.
Lewis will start. He was a captain on this team
Okay.
last year. Purdy's coming off a shoulder surgery, so he is still lingering on the injury list. So Brandon Lewis is the starter.
Gotcha. Okay. I was curious if I had seen anything on that. So I was curious if he is feeling pretty good and healthy, maybe lose the job. Do we see him anyway? I was curious there.
You got to see him, right, at some point, but I don't know if his injury is going to let him do it week 0.
Well, speaking of injury front, like look out for. I heard Lashley said he was going to be playing both quarterbacks. The Jennings kid, who's the backup of Preston Stone. Stone's coming off an injury as well. I mean, 27.5 is your spread for a reason. Maybe you get out early. You're going to rely on guys like Johnson at the running back spot anyways. You're probably going to be running the football a ton. I think the line of scrimmage is just going to be the big separation in this game, man. Like SMU's trying to make that Power 4 jump. Prove it here. The biggest difference between Power 4 schools and G5 schools, it's always the line of scrimmage. Everybody's got skill, guys. Show you're big enough, strong enough to push guys around. Elijah Roberts is a really good defensive end for SMU. Get after Lewis. Like this was one of the worst offenses in college football last year with Nevada. This is a bottom 5 program in college football. Yeah, it's not a good. It is not a good team, and the line's been moving a little bit. I might have to even go check if it's even 27.5 at this very moment that we're talking.
Disclaimer, these are Monday lines. That's when these graphics were made. So they're probably a little bit more in favor of SMU. I think I saw this afternoon 28.5.
Yeah.
So it's moving not in the direction for the Wolfpack. So that's a tough sign. I would say the things I had here, you got to think Nevada is going to take a little bit of a step forward on defense. That defensive unit was terrible last year. You bring in a super defensive-minded coach in Jeff Choate. He had really good teams at Montana State back in the day, too, and he just came from being the D coordinator at Texas. So you got to think they'll take a little bit of a step forward on that side of the ball, but the offense is such a question mark. And like I said, SMU, a self-funded program now in a Power Four, like you got to think they're going to come out with all the hype in the world and cover this number because it's not like Nevada is going to be a daunting place to play.
No, and I think with the new, this will be our first rip at the new rules. And if SMU does decide to just run the football, how fast does this football game go? If it's just consistently, first down and just elongated drive over 60, 70 yards every time SMU has the football.
I will throw this out there, though. This is like almost a Reese level betting statistic here. Nevada was a double-digit underdog 8 times last year, and in those 8 times, they were 5-3 against the spread.
Okay.
And they keep
so I just got more stats for you.
The Fighting Wolfpack.
Yeah, you never know. They don't like being double-digit underdogs. They'll prove you wrong. Reese, what do you got for us betting stat-wise or stat-wise?
Well, the lines, I actually looked at FanDuel. The line's down at 25.5 in favor of SMU. But SMU the last 5 years they've won their opening week. The last 3 have been on the road, so they don't care about going on the road. And then also Nevada is 1-6 against the spread as a home underdog since 2022. So again, I think Shaver hit the nail on the head though. Talk about line of scrimmage, even if you do have that backup quarterback in for Preston Stone, and JP to talk about all the running backs. I just think that line of scrimmage is going to be dominant, but it's also how much of that clock are they going to eat. But I just don't see Nevada going in there and, putting up 14, 17 points. I don't know if they'll get to that number. So I think SMU is the smarter play here.
All right.
We're looking at like a 35-7. It's kind of what I'm thinking. 35.
Okay, give you the last
SMU. That's just what I was about to do. Round table style final score. Who wins the game? Jake, you got 35-7 SMU.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling.
All right, JP.
SMU has won their last 3 openers by 24, 38, and almost 50. So I'm going to go SMU, who's going to put
going
up
hot.
45-13. I think that's a dirty 13 where it just little late touchdown. Nevada
couple of kicks. Couple of kicks.
One
just to try to get they put some drives together. Let's reward the kicker. Let's get him some reps late in the fourth quarter. This is the only game I do not have a play in this week.
Okay. You betting menace.
Congratulations, Jake.
Reese, pick and score.
Let's go 42-10 SMU.
I like that. We're all around the same number. I'm going 42-17 SMU. I think Nevada gets theirs a little bit on offense towards late in the game because you got to think SMU is going to throw a couple of freshmen in there, maybe younger guys when they're blowing a team out in week 0. But 42-17. So all of us are on SMU. That is the play, and it doesn't feel like that's that much of a shocker when they're a 25-point favorite live right now. So that is that game. Let's move down the line. Let's go to an FCS versus an FBS matchup. However, believe me if I tell you this, what if the FCS team is the favorite and it's like by 10? So Montana State travels to play New Mexico this week, FS1 at 3 p.m. Central. Boys, what do we got on this game? The Bobcats are a real squad, and they're looking to cover the number against an FBS opponent. Jake.
Montana State hasn't played an FBS opponent since 2022, where they gave up 68 points to Oregon State. Granted, they are not playing the 2022 Oregon State team. They're playing a much lesser football team. But it's interesting. From all my research, I could not find a win for Montana State against an FBS opponent. And it's just crazy that they're favored by 10. I think it's up to 11 now on the road at an FBS school. New Mexico's completely revamped their roster, 29 new guys through the portal, some decent Power 4 experience. I think Bronco Mendenhall is the right guy for the job. I think they're going to have their guys ready to play. I think they're pretty excited. They like their dual threat quarterback. He was the backup last year. Have a former Iowa State running back, a couple of other Power 4 running backs that I think are going to be okay. Am I saying this team's going to go out and win 6 games in the Mountain West? No. But I'm saying you're crazy to give this team 11 points at home against Montana State. Montana State's going to want to run the football. They had 5 guys rush for over 450 yards last year, so it's going to be slow. But, I mean, I just think that this is going to be a team where it's going to be slow. Both of them like their running backs. I think New Mexico's feels good with where they're at. The running back spot, they're going to run their quarterback. I like New Mexico to cover at home. This is actually a play that I have. Full transparency. If you're new to the show, We are not gambling experts. I do not have my own power ratings.
Sickos.
I try to do my own list. I try to do my own research. I try to follow some things and where it's going. I just think it's crazy to give this team 11 points at home against an FCS opponent in the first week of the year. Like, I don't know. It seems
JP,
crazy.
how about the Montana State doubt going down there? Are you on the opposite side?
I think it's a rough way to start off your new head coaching career with a loss at home to Montana State. Now, this is a Montana State team that consistently gets to the quarterfinals, semifinals of the FCS playoffs in the last couple of years. But Tommy Malone, he was very good for Montana State a season ago. He's a better runner. Jake did bring that up with their ability to run the football. I mean, they had roughly, I think, over 260 or 70 yards per game last year as a football team. Like, this team runs the football and they do it well. New Mexico did bring in some guys on the defensive line to kind of shore things up, and Mendenhall can find a way to get a little more effort, get some guys who really want to be a part of the program and grow something the right way. Yeah, giving 10 to an FBS program on the road, especially that much of a travel, is a lot. But I think a Montana State team is probably licking their chops a little bit. I mean, I don't know what goes on in that camp each week, but if they are college kids like we were at one point, they know what the line is. They know they're picked to win this one, or they should win this one. But that does not necessarily mean they're going to walk in there and do so. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes. New Mexico State has got to it's a program reset. The New Mexico, God, I'm looking over here on the side here.
We get excited. It happens. We're only hearing people calm down.
Well,
I saw that.
It's good you bring that up, Jordan, because before they play New Mexico State in what is, I think, week 5, like, they got to be pretty up for this game if they're New Mexico. They got to get this one because they have at Arizona, at Auburn, Fresno State at home, and then they travel at New Mexico State. So, like, this is your one shot to get your first win under your first-year head coach before you kind of get through a tough little stretch to start the year. So you got to expect, I don't know. It's going to be a huge chip on your shoulder. If you're an FBS school, just an underdog by that much. And Montana State's not like they are, how to compare them FBS-wise. If they were in the FBS, they'd probably be a 7th or 8th team in FBS. Like, they're not North Dakota State. They lost to them in the playoffs. They're not Montana. Montana crushed them last year, and they're definitely not South Dakota State. So they're like a fringe tier 2 FCS school.
You and I.
Oh, however, Jake, I don't know if you lay out those good competitive FCS schools. I don't know if there's many out there that wouldn't pick New Mexico out of a line and be like, yep, we'll take them week 0. Like, we're talking about New Mexico here. This program is not good. Montana State, dead opposite. This team has national title hopes this year. This offense is for real, man. JP mentioned the quarterback, but how about you return 4 running backs? Your top 4 running backs all come back on a rushing game that was absolutely dominant last year. You bring back your leading pass recipient in Ty McCullough. I think he's good for one. I think Montana State covers this number, dude, and shows some FCS respect. Those top tier FCS programs 100% can beat New Mexico. And so put me on Montana State.
Hey, they can beat them. That's fine. They can beat them by 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. They can beat them by whatever. They just can't beat them by 10.
You just talked about they need this one. They need this one. No, they don't. Obviously,
they need it.
A close game.
They need it so bad. They're going to be fighting the whole time. They're going to have the ball down 3. They're going to throw a pick to seal the game, but hey, they're going to cover. But they really fought hard in Broncos' first game.
Reese, what do you got on this matchup?
Well, the line climbed up to 11.5 today, according to FanDuel. But New Mexico
Monday line.
Yeah, no, you're good. I'm making sure people know. So like, numbers are a little different now. But New Mexico is 6-0 straight up against FCS opponents since 2017. They're only 2-4 against the spread. And the Bobcats you talked about before, but they're 32-9 on the past 3 seasons making the playoffs every year. So yeah, it's a good program. But again, it's hard to know, your FCS, FBS. I don't know where you really lean because it's 2 programs. Like, you have a lot of Montana State, but it's also a lot of unknowns for a New Mexico team where it's like everything's kind of new this year. So it's at double digits. I mean, week 0, it's really kind of hard to know where to go with that line, I think.
All right, there it is. That is game number 2 that we're covering of week 0. And let's go round table style. Let's do score predictions. Who's going to win the game? Jake, go down to you first.
Yeah, since you guys are all making great points, I'll support your cause. I'll go Montana State wins 21-17 on the road. They don't cover.
Dog fight. That's a dog fight. JP,
what do you stole my numbers.
Yeah, give me Montana State 27-20 here. Again, I don't
Still covering.
I just think it stays close. Late touchdown might cover that spread,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know
backdoor
if I see the
touchdown.
blowout quite yet. It's hard for me to do this right week 0 with an FCS
I haven't
team
seen
getting
a
10.
single football snap of 2024 yet.
All right,
Still
Reese,
early.
down to you. What do you got for number?
But Schaefer stole my number, so I'll adjust mine a little bit. I'll go Montana State 23, New Mexico 17. Or I mean, flip. Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
You know
So
he's
3 on Montana State.
Sorry.
Put me as the 4th. I'm going 27-13. I think the ground and pound and the time of possession is going to be Army level for
This
Montana.
guy
State.
wants his friend to lose money. It's unreal.
It's nothing personal. It's just business. It's just
We can all
business.
watch this together, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
we?
Yeah, we'll be able to watch
Can
it.
we?
if you got,
Yeah,
if you
during the
guys,
ceremony.
if
During
you guys,
it. I'm
Besides
not
I was
acting
gonna
on it.
say, if you guys
Can we
see
sit
me,
together?
you guys see me do
Okay,
this
we got
during the mass. Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, Gage.
No. You signed up for that. No apologies needed. You signed
Fuck
up
it.
for it.
You got
Yeah.
JP fist bumping in the 5th row like Montana State just scored a touchdown.
I mean, that's what you sign up for. It's fall weddings. But yes, that is game
On
2.
week
Let's
0.
keep moving down the line. We're going to skip over the Hawaii and Delaware State one. We'll touch on that one barely at the end because I do want to talk about it.
I was
think
gonna
there's a
say,
shocking piece
I
of
got
it.
some points for you.
Okay, let's go to it. Throw it up there, JP. Let's go Delaware State and Hawaii. Look at this line. What if I told you that out there in the dark abyss of gambling, Bovada level dark abyss, there is a Hawaii minus 38.5 line in existence? Jake, tell us why that exists.
Well, what if I told you that you could have gotten this a month ago at Hawaii minus 27.5?
Yeah.
The rumor is out on Delaware State, boys, and it is not good. This is a disgraceful football team.
You're telling me people are just now getting behind that Delaware State is that bad? I feel like we've known
Hey,
this.
I don't
I
think
know
they
this
knew
logo
about
now.
them to know that. I really don't.
We got to go back and pull the archives of the It's Just Money days when we're talking Fresno State and UConn. When I'm hammering the dogs week 1, what was it? They were 42-point favorites.
It was
Something,
a lot.
yeah.
We're doing the same with the Rainbow Warriors this weekend, fellas. This team, I hope Delaware State made it over there safely. If they hadn't yet, their
They
flight
missed
couldn't
the
even.
flight.
They missed the
Imagine
flight.
taking a plane from Delaware to Hawaii just to be a 40-point underdog on week 0, and you're playing at 1:00 a.m. your time. This is just set up for a disaster. The problem is I do have to play devil's advocate a little bit with Hawaii. The McBride kid, who is the all-conference wide receiver, I just heard today that he's been in team activities, but he's been dealing with some, some suspension, or I'm not really sure what's going on. He wasn't listed on the depth chart. So that's kind of a loss for a team that's going to air it out a bunch. They still have their quarterback, Brennan Shager. He's going to be really good for them.
Pretty good.
This team was 32nd in the country in passing yards last year, but the problem was they couldn't score. They were like 108th. You got to turn that around, and what better way than doing a Gatorade scrimmage versus Delaware State where you can convert in the red zone and work on that kind of stuff before you get UCLA to come to town next weekend. I just think that defensively, they got 7 starters returning for them. It's not a great defensive unit. I think it's a team that's getting better just overall. And I think 7 starters returning on defense helps out a week 0 game and the connectivity of the defense just going against such a poor team in Delaware State. So I don't expect them to give up a bunch of random bullcrap points, at least in the beginning of the game. And they're going to be throwing it around. So there's a good chance, but a lot of incompletions, stop time. I know with the new changes that JP mentioned, but when you throw it out that much, you're going to have a lot more possessions, a lot more plays. So I think you're going to have a lot more chances to score points.
I will say one of the main reasons I want to talk about Delaware State is making these videos, this video content that we create and post for you guys. You have to research sometimes some teams that maybe you don't know much about. In doing so, I had to visit Delaware State football via Instagram. And oh my, does this look like a little league program? Like those practices, like they're wearing jerseys that are hanging in pieces. Like what is going on at this school? You are a 40-point underdog to Hawaii. That's usually what Hawaii is.
Let me give you another little. They gave up 62 points to Miami of Ohio last year, and they also lost to Army 57-0. Both are
Army.
run heavy teams, so they're complete opposite of what Hawaii's going to bring to the table. But still, this is not the same Montana State. It's frankly, it's not even close.
JP, what do you think about Delaware State? You probably could have gotten an offer there, or can right now. So, what do you think on Delaware State?
I'll be honest,
Delaware State players listening.
Going through all the games that we were breaking down, this one got like 0.01% of my attention just based on the matchup. And
it's
so
40-point spread.
It's because we have a friend named Jacob who's a sicko. That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, I know how bad the program is. I know Hawaii and what they're wanting to be here, but the effort level for this game, I have to tell you, was near zero for me.
It's going to be that for Delaware State once they finally arrive. I think they missed what are they flying? They got to be flying.
They're flying Spirit at this point.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
They got to get a
Southwest
Spirit flight.
No, Spirit, cheaper, even cheaper. They might even be flying. There's probably one step under Spirit. I can't draw the name right now, but they sure
Frontier.
I know Delta. Yeah,
Here's
Frontier's bad too.
I'm flying Frontier on Sunday.
Like there are people out there that are wanting advice for this football game, and I'm going to guarantee it. You're not going to be going to the big national medias and big podcasts, and they're not going to be covering this game. Somebody's out there dying for some notes.
Cover 3.
That's what we're here for. Boys. Somebody's got to do the work. Somebody's got to do the dirty work around here. So
yes, that's grit. All right, let's do it. Let's do roundtable style. Jake, what's your final score prediction?
I'm going to say 56-7. I think this team covers easily.
Guy.
It's jumped up 11 points over the last month for a reason. They did put up 20 points on Miami of Ohio last year. I don't know how those points came. I can't say that I went back and watched the film. But I just expect this team to struggle. I think Hawaii, they're going to be good this year. I think there's a lot of optimism with them being a 6 or 7 win Mountain West team.
All right.
They were honorable mention for my over-under wins.
Reese, score prediction and who wins the game?
Well, 56-6. They're going to miss the extra point. Hawaii wins.
All right. I like that. JP, I know you didn't look into it, but you could probably throw a guess out there.
49-10.
Ooh, 10 points. That's a lot of points.
Just barely covering.
Believing
in the horn.
Covering by a half. That hook is big.
Yeah, give me Hawaii 52-7. For the first time in a long time, we're going to see a Colt Brennan, RIP, level Hawaii performance just because of who they're playing. They're not going to be that level.
I'm glad you said that. One of the players, I think it was a receiver, he dyed his hair beach blonde and then did the island in black, the Hawaii island, in honor of Colt Brennan. So yeah, they're actually. I changed my score prediction. Let's go 81-0.
That's a good call to that kid.
Yep, Colt Brennan legacy. You gotta do that. All right, there is that game. Let's go to the one final one that I think everybody wants to talk about. Let's talk about the Aer Lingus Classic in Dublin, Ireland. Georgia Tech, Florida State. Florida State at the time I made this was 11.5 point favorite. I believe it's 13.5 now or 12.5.
Oh, it's 10. It is 10. It's coming down.
13.5. Sports Illustrated a little bit ago, but all right, it's coming down. Georgia Tech in the mix here. Can Brent Key's squad get it done? JP, what do you think?
Yeah, this is actually more of an interesting matchup as I get closer to the game, not just because it's going to be the game number 1 of the weekend and of the season, but I do think there are some spots here that I just really want to know about Florida State and what can Georgia Tech really do to change things up. First thing I wrote down now is how conservative or run heavy is the new Florida State offense with DJU running the thing, right? Or we're not going to be as downfield of a passing team like they were a season ago, mostly because the receivers aren't the same group that were elite a season ago. And DJU is not the passer that Jordan Travis was a season ago. And so how does that completely change? Do they become more conservative? Are they very run heavy? Is it a lot of play action baked just to make sure that he feels comfortable? Because I can't imagine they're asking him to air it out. And then how much better does this Georgia Tech defensive unit get with the hire of Santucci? Like, what if it fits? What if the mold fits and they are just better off the rip? And we usually see in week 0 games, in ones that are kind of close, the offenses usually have a little bit of an advantage. I feel like if you haven't seen teams like this, and then you're completely this is the first time you've seen a team with a different level of speed than what you see every day in practice. Like going back to like Nebraska and Northwestern, like those two teams weren't very good offensively throughout the year. They were way better defensive programs, and they lit up the scoreboard in Ireland. And I'm just looking at Georgia Tech here, and I'm thinking I think there's an opportunity here to slow things down, stay in it, with just Florida State not being as explosive as you might think or had seen in years past. Along with that, I think Georgia Tech's offensive line is probably in a pretty good spot to deal with that front four from Florida State. And I think Florida State's good on the front four, but I think Georgia Tech loves their offensive line and what they've built there. And if Haynes King can just not turn it over a ton like he did a season ago and still be that guy putting up numbers in yardage and pass or in touchdowns, like they could stay in this thing the whole time. Like that's why I'm like, I think that's what people are seeing, what the numbers coming down. But I'm not saying that this is going to be super close all the time, but I'm not thinking we're not going to show up this thing be 35-17 in the third quarter. I don't see that.
All right. Yeah, I like that take. A little Brent Key love, a little Yellow Jacket love. Jake, what do you got on this game?
Yeah, I've said that I'm on the under for wins for Georgia Tech this year, but I'm high on them going into this game for a few reasons. Number one, outside of last year's Notre Dame Navy game, I think every other game in Ireland has been under 10 points in the final score. I think it's going to be close. What I like is JP made a great point. It's like, I think it's harder to get the defense ready to go for week 0 when you, especially in the new portal era, when you have no idea maybe what you're getting. Although if you're scouting Georgia Tech, you're getting a lot of their studs back. So maybe you do know what to look for if you're Florida State scouting this football team. But that's kind of where I'm going with this is, can Georgia Tech punch first? They have the weapons to do it. I like Leary at wide receiver, the Haynes kid at running back. And obviously everybody knows about Haynes King. So looking at this roster, offensive line, I think brings back 4 starters. Yes, you're going against Marvin Jones Jr. and Patrick Payton at the defensive ends for Florida State, who are going to be really good. But maybe it takes a quarter or two if you're taking the Georgia Tech spread. Maybe it takes a quarter or two. They get out to a 10-0 lead, something like that. Florida State will probably find their groove. They're very talented. They're going to be a really good team this year, and they bounce back. But if you're looking at a big spread here, if you're looking to take Florida State, which I don't know yet, I don't know what I'm doing, I just would be cautious about it because I do think this is going to be a close game. And I would love to see fireworks first game of the year. I'd love to see this be high scoring. But if you're Georgia Tech, make the first punch, get out to that first touchdown, first drive, or whatever that looks like.
I think that's super important too. Reese, what do you got on the Aer Lingus Classic?
I think both these guys hit on the head when you talk about, what's this offense going to be like with DJU, because he's not Jordan Travis. You don't have Keon Coleman. You don't have Johnny Wilson. You don't have Trey Benson. So that defense is going to look a lot different. And you talk about maybe it is going to take him a quarter to figure out. And it's also that defense, like Haynes Keen, I think we could talk about, is probably one of the more underappreciated, undervalued dual threat quarterbacks in college football. Like the dude's a baller. And like this offense last year, they were very balanced. They were 425 yards a game. They gave up they rushed for 204 on the ground, which is pretty solid. And you passed for 221 in the air. So if Florida State's offense is struggling, their defense better be shared up too, because this offense is going to be pretty solid. Because you guys just talk about their offensive line too. I mean, Brent Key was the old line coach at Alabama, so he's got these guys shared up. And according to Phil Still, it's one of the top lines in the ACC, and it's a Joe Moore Award contender. Right. So I think this offensive line, I think, is going to be a huge boost for this team, because you just listen to the guys on Florida State's D-line, they're going to be an issue for him. But go ahead, JP.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you out. I said, did we mention the defensive secondary for Florida State, like, and how good that group's supposed to be? We're talking about Haynes King, and I agree, Reese, like he could light you up if you're not paying attention to it. Do we have multiple guys that can attack this defensive secondary? I mean, I'm thinking Eric Singleton's the only guy that's a real downfield threat that can really light up any secondary in the country. But I feel like they need multiple options here if you're Georgia Tech to get the pass game rolling.
I feel like fair.
It's a fair point.
Sure. Reese, anything else on this game?
No, that's pretty much all I had. I think with it being a road game too, like in Ireland, it's so weird these teams are going to Ireland. But I think that definitely helps out Georgia Tech too. I think with the spread being double digits, like I think Shaver just said it too.
I'm saying just make it weird if you're them. Just make it weird.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like you're not high on this team's over for wins, but they're going to make it a hard-nosed football game, especially with the head coach you have. I just think it's hard to say that it's going to be a double-digit spread with what it is right now. I kind of like Georgia Tech in this spot, I think.
We covered a lot of the bases already, but let me just point out to the viewers that Georgia Tech, and when I saw them, this was an hour ago, plus 340 on the money line. I'm just throwing that out there. let it sit in your brain a little bit, maybe marinate it, and then it wouldn't be the worst player thing to cheer for on a Saturday in week 0. But let's talk about this team. Haynes King, we talked about him a bunch. He can sling it. You're both correct, JP, Reese. However, he oftentimes slings the ball to the wrong team. It is very important for him to not turn the ball over in this game. I think that's going to be the name of the game for Georgia Tech. If you want to stay competitive in this game, keep it close. Don't turn the ball over. He threw 35 touchdowns last year. Great. He's probably going to even air it out more with another year of experience under his belt. But when you throw 16 picks, something's got to change because you're due for 1 or 2 this game, and you got an elite secondary, which JP mentioned, that you're going up against. So that is going to be the name of the game. If they compete deep in this game, you've got to control the clock. Find the run game against a good defensive front and make it that slow, elongated, weird game, just like JP said. But I think they can do it. I'll start off with our score predictions and who's going to win the game. I think Florida State wins the game 34-24. When I saw it, it was 11. So I think Georgia Tech still covers, but Florida State's just too talented and too well coached to lose that game. JP, we'll go JP first. He's wearing the Tech shirt.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking to see if I could find a Haynes King prop and just wanted to see what his passing numbers were and if he had an interception prop and if it was over 0.5 or over 1.5. That was just, I feel like
gotta be over.
I think he's good for 1. Yeah. This one, like I said, I think it'll be a lot closer. I think it'll be, if Georgia Tech doesn't turn it over, it really can stay low scoring. If they start turning it over, this could just become a shootout. Like if they're not turning it over, they're scoring. And if Florida State's getting the ball back from Georgia Tech that consistently, this can get up there. I'm going to say he throws 1, but I'm going to go with, what's this over under at? Do we know the answer to that question?
56, I believe.
Yeah, right? 55.5.
Okay.
I saw.
I got, give me a 31-28 Florida State win. Like, I think it just gets dicey week 0. Well, this will be one we forget about as the road goes. The Florida State continues to get better and better, but I think it's one we'll look back at for Georgia Tech, be like, hey, they were in this week 0. I think this team can go in the right direction.
Yep, and that's what Brent Key does. That dude makes games against ranked opponents tight. That's what he's done since he's been the head coach there, and even as an assistant, he was a valuable member there. Jake, what do you got on this game? Final score prediction, who wins it?
This game could go like 10 different ways. I mean, you have a lot of unfamiliarity with Florida State's offense going up against what we think is a bad defense in Georgia Tech. On the other side, you have a pretty solid, fast, up-tempo Georgia Tech offense going against a really good Florida State defense. Like, it's just a battle of the opposites here. I don't know what I'll be playing. I will play it because this game's the best of the weekend. But right now, I'm taking Florida State 31, Georgia Tech 20. I think that it'll be close in the 4th. And I do see Haynes King throwing at least 1 pick. And it's probably going to come at a bad time for them.
Yep, that would add up. Reese, close us out on week 0 previews. Who wins it and what's the score?
I don't know if you guys remember last year, but I did take a shot in the dark on a 13.5 point spread, Duke and Clemson. I believe it was a week 1 football game. And it did hit, but I'm not going to do that this year. I think
you need to mention that was after he picked Clemson to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, I did do that. Whatever. I did do that. Whatever. It happened. But hey, 1 for 1 in that situation. Whatever. But I'm not going to do that this year. I think Georgia Tech is still going to cover the number, but let's go 28-24. I think it's going to be a closer ball game. I think they're going to make it ugly, and you are going to get your interception out of King, but hopefully he does it early when Florida State is still struggling to figure that offense out. I think do it in the first half. Just don't have one late at the end of the game. And I think this is I'm not saying I wouldn't be extremely shocked if Georgia Tech would win this football game, but I think if they do, it's going to be because it's an ugly football game. Like that's why I think it's going to stay close.
I will say Reese has to save his bullish underdog pick because that was week 1 last year. It was also the Labor Day game on Monday night. So Reese, you're telling me you got to take Boston College's money line versus Florida State next week? That's the Monday night Labor Day game.
Doesn't mean I have to, but there's no one I can.
You don't have to do anything.
It's kind of your thing now. I think that's what. I think it's your thing now.
Let me. No, we'll see. I got to review the tape. We'll get back to you next week. I'm not locking anything in yet. It's still early. Let me get the film out there. I got to do.
The guy's got to hop on a plane. Give him a break.
Come on, dude. Give me some time.
But all right, that is it. We previewed the entire week 0 slate. Anything out there lingering that you forgot to mention earlier from any of the week 0 games, gentlemen? JP?
I was saying the spread board comes back next week. We're not doing it in week 0.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we're doing the ATS board next week, starting in week 1. So if you're curious, you saw that last year. We'll do that again. That was a ton of fun. I had a ton of fun with that. Maybe we'll try to get more games in on that. Reese, did you win that last year? Who won that last year? It was not
Schaefer
me.
beat me by.
I did, because remember when I went?
Yeah,
I went
you blew a lead.
undefeated. I went undefeated in rivalry weekend. I went like 14-0.
Nuts.
It was the most insane thing I've ever
Well,
done in my betting career.
I'll see if I can't get more than 5 games per week on there, but returns next week. Super pumped for it.
Hey,
If you're wondering, a universal play for the pod this week that we all just said without even realizing, Hawaii minus 38.5 is our universal play. Everybody,
I'll convince. I will do my due diligence and convince all of you guys once it's like 10 o'clock Saturday night. We've all had too many Miller Lights. Hey, boys, we got to put in our money for it'll probably be like 41.5 on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's just going to go higher as
never gonna get big enough.
This goes higher and higher.
It's never going to get big enough.
Alternate exactly spread.
Right,
I can see that working out just how it would too. Hawaii just ruining my night, therefore kind of ruining the end of the reception for me. Like that's just college football so back. But we were happy to be here. We were happy to preview everything for you. We will bring back the dog's dog next week along with the bet boards. A lot of fun stuff coming, but it's just a little teaser this weekend. So we will see you next week where we will preview North Dakota State and Colorado, games like that. There's also 3 more ranked matchups, I believe. So we will see you then. But until then, shop No Rivals. What should they do on our channels, Reese?
Like, comment, subscribe, hit the follow button.
That code? What's the code for No Rivals, JP?
PTFS.
At checkout for free shipping. Jake, take us away.
Play